Now, we briefly touched on this once before, and that is turning or off tracking. Now, as you're turning a truck or as you're turning your car, you really don't give a darn because what you can see is easy enough to turn. But let's talk about a long vehicle that doesn't turn very well and has a very short or very long turning radius. They're not as much danger as one that is turning quickly, because your turning radius, your pivot point on that truck is critical, because like we talked about before, as you start to turn a corner, the off tracking, which is the distance from the center that those rear axles are going to be from where that front axle went around, sometimes can be 15 or 20 feet. So if you're turning short on a pole or a curb or a car, you're pretty much guaranteed you're going to run it over with the rear of that truck. So you need to know where the pivot point is and where you have to start turning, because if you don't find this out right away, at night when you cannot watch all your mirrors or you can't see everything, in heavy traffic, stuff pops out of nowhere and bites you right in the butt. And it's not always your fault. Somebody crowded you, somebody pulled under your wheels. That happens a lot. As you're turning, they think you're going to go straight or right or whatever. They pull right in underneath either your drivers or your trailer axles, and I've seen it happen dozens of times. So know what your turning radius is of your vehicle and where your pivot point is, because you should not start to turn that vehicle until you know the pivot point is going to pass in off tracking. So the unbreakable rule about turning is you cannot start your turn until you know where your pivot point is going to end up on your off tracking. If you do that, you're going to slam into something. Now, as you are coming up on your pivot point and turning, everything this side, your side of that pivot point is going to get closer. Everything behind the pivot point is going to get farther away. Now, that doesn't come into play till you do what you call doing the butt. So on trailers or RVs where the axles are way forward of the ass end, as you start to turn and you're watching your left-hand mirror, let's say you're taking a left turn, you're watching your left-hand mirror and you're coming up on a corner with a tight pole on the corner, but you're not going to start turning till you know that pivot point's going to make it around, either two axles back there, doesn't matter how many axles, you got to know your pivot point. But till you know that pivot point's going to off track around that pole. Now, your pivot point's coming up on the pole, you start your turn, and all of a sudden, on the right-hand side, you have swiped a school bus with the ass end or the butt of your rig, because it hangs over the axle so far. Because I told you, anything behind the pivot point is going to move away from you. So as you start around that corner, you need to check that right-hand mirror immediately to make sure you've got room to swing that butt around. I only say this because I'm following a guy, and we have brand new $600,000 RVs. He gets in a situation where it's 3 lanes, it's in the turn lane properly, goes to make the turn, the butt of his RV swipes the full length pretty much of his brand new school bus in the next lane over. And I mean, it just tears that RV to shreds. Now, why he didn't apply the brakes at that point, I don't know, but he kept on going. And the bus was even trying to get away from him, but a school bus has a long butt too. So as he tried to get away, it just compounded the problem, breaking the windows in the school bus and ripping the back end of this RV pretty much completely off. So you're thinking, oh, this is kind of, minutia, doesn't mean much. Trust me, it's a good $30,000 mistake to not watch that right mirror as you start to make that pivot point, comes up and starts to make that turn. Okay, Well, I've got you here. Let's talk about oversteer. Now, as you look at some school buses, which are rear engine drive, fire trucks, most of your RVs, your big RVs, your drivable RVs, the driver is in front of the front axle, the steer axle. But I mean, on fire trucks, they're way in front of the steer axle. So you need to learn to oversteer that vehicle, because the first time you go to turn the corner, man, you're slamming into a telephone pole or the curb, or running over the curb or median or something immediately, because the axle that's steering is way the heck behind you. Tour buses are the same way. I've driven a lot of those. So that oversteer, you immediately find out what your pivot point is, and then you immediately find out what your oversteer timing is. So you got a pole on the left, and you're going to make a left-hand turn. You come up on the pole, and normally you'd watch your pivot point and start turning when you know the pivot point's clear. With this, you have to start counting 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 for your oversteer, because your axle's way behind you. You have to make sure you know what the axle's doing, not what the driver's doing. And also with an oversteer vehicle, I have found on slippery roads that fire engine or bus, coach, whatever it is, RV, because you're in front of the axle, you start sliding, and you don't realize you're sliding till that dadgum unit is almost sideways in the road, because you're so far over that front axle. This is a concern you want to have when it's slippery, or you're following too close and they stop in front of you. Very easy to just flip that baby over or oversteer it into one or the other of the lanes, whichever, and you've already planned your route of escape. You always plan a way to get the hell out of the situation you're in, and if there is no way, back off, pull off the road, do whatever you got to do to get the hell away from that trap that you will be put in multiple lane traffic. Okay, if I haven't bored you to death yet, let me talk about the weak spot. Your weak spot pretty much in any rig, whether it's a truck, RV, camper, whatever, is that passenger rear corner. Now, if you are going down the road and you want to figure out how good a driver is, look at their back bumper on the passenger side. If it's all banged up, this guy is not the best driver in the world, because that is your weakest point. This is the point where you don't have very good vision of it, and as you're turning, especially like with a tractor trailer, it disappears in a hurry. Also, it has the butt swing, the biggest butt swing ever. So it's hardest to see, hardest to manage, and you're going to bang that up or take the bumper off or the molding every single time on that back corner. So if you want to check a driver, how good he is, look at that back corner on his truck. If it's banged up, run away, be very afraid. One more little quick point before I leave you here is, if you are towing a vehicle, or a vehicle that's like a truck, tractor, trailer, or an RV car, RV trailer, truck trailer, whatever it is, that you're towing a trailer or another vehicle, and your vehicle bends to get around corners, when you enter off the main road, you're not going in a straight line anymore, you're going to park it or you're going to fuel it, whatever, you must mentally walk through where you're going to take that vehicle and where you're going to end up, because especially these parking lots, and I'm talking Walmart, Target, anywhere like that, they intentionally put these cute little planters and gardens and sometimes huge boulders right there on the corner, tight corners, and these companies plan that parking lot so that heavy trucks cannot maneuver in there whatsoever. And you will find a phenomenon as you start towing vehicles that you can get your butt in a situation that you cannot get out of, where you have cocked the vehicle just enough. Now you're thinking, no, if I drive in there, whatever it is, I can back it out. That's not even close to being the truth. You can drive a vehicle into a spot that you cannot get it out of physically without taking it apart, pulling your car off, or dropping the trailer, or whatever you're going to do, which makes it a catastrophic pain in your day and pretty much a pain in your profit. I'll tell you a quick little story as I try to keep these chapters in 10-minute blurs, under 15 minutes. I'm at a Burger King, and this beautiful $1.1 million Prevost chromed out coach with a 35-foot triaxle double car carrier trailer on the back pulls into the parking lot. Straight in. There's only one way out, but he can't make that corner to the right, and all the parking spots are full. He pulls in and realizes, I can't make this turn. I'm going to have to back out. Well, I guess he didn't have the rig very long, because he throwed it in reverse and was going to back out onto the street blind, send that trailer back out onto 4 lanes blind. But with the brake system he had on it, it was a surge system, and as you back up against the tongue of the trailer, it sets the brakes. There's 6 tires back there that says, I don't think you're going to back up today. He's skidding them across the parking lot, but can't get enough oomph to back this whole rig up. So he drives forward a little bit, tries to get a running start backing up, and there's smoke rolling off these tires. Well, I'm just coming out of Burger King realizing this guy is screwed. I mean, he's put himself in a spot he can't get out of. So I walked up to the window. I don't think he was in a good mood to start with. But anyway, I said, sir, I deliver these for a living. And if you'd like, I'll help you get out of this spot. Well, he showed me what kind of vocabulary he had picked up from drunken sailors. And then he called me everything but white, and then he called me white. He said something about my mom not being married, and who the F did I think I was? It's not my rig, it's his, so why don't I just get the hell out of the way and mind my own business? At that point I said, have a nice day. So he looks around, he can't back up, he can't turn. He looks ahead of him, and there's about a foot to a foot and a half curve with a little planter of the parking lot, and then over straight across is a bank parking lot, and it's on a Saturday or Sunday. The bank is closed. He puts that baby in low gear, starts across that parking lot right up on the median. Now when the front wheels went over the median, which is about, it's about like this median right back here, but when the front wheels drop off, all the chrome down the side of that bus is crunched or partially trying to hang on. Up over the curb he goes with the first set of axles, second set of axles. The front axles are already off the planter. When the final tag axle in the rear dropped off, the ass end of that bus came down on that planter and mowed the grass and the dirt right clean off it. Tore the trailer up, which is also a chrome matching paint job, and out through the bank parking lot, makes a right-hand turn, and down the road he went. I never saw him again. I figured it had to be maybe about $40,000 worth of damage just because he wouldn't listen to anybody. But I'm telling you, there are spots out there you can get into with even with a straight job, but mostly with something that bends, either in the middle or on the end. There's plenty of spots you can get into that you cannot get out of. Trust me, that's from experience. More film at 11.